A while back, I made a video talking about using certain folding phones with a mouse and keyboard. I want to kind of show you how it worked on these different phones and if it was actually something that was useful. Back then, I talked about the Pixel Fold, OnePlus Open, and I think it was the Galaxy Z Fold 5 still, or probably Z Fold 4 is what I had at that point whenever I made that video. But recently, I was kind of messing around with some stuff, and I noticed that some things had changed with the Pixel Fold. This is obviously the Pixel 9 Pro Fold, the sequel, so I kind of want to reassess this and show you how things have kind of changed using a mouse and keyboard with the new Pixel Fold. For this video, I'm going to be using this Logitech Pebble mouse and keyboard. I'll put a link to it in the description down below. It's actually pretty good because it can be paired to 3 different devices. Both the mouse and the keyboard can toggle between 3 different devices, and that is very useful. All right, so we have everything connected, and one of the first things that I noticed was that just the cursor itself actually feels pretty decent to me. A lot of the time on devices like this that aren't necessarily like meant to be using a mouse, they just don't really feel right, and this actually feels pretty good. Like, I feel pretty accurate. You may also notice just what the cursor looks like. It's a fairly standard looking cursor. The OnePlus Open, it's actually just a little circle, so this is more of a normal looking cursor. Now, we do have some keyboard shortcuts, and I think what I can do is hit the Windows key, and I think it is the slash key, and I should get some shortcuts. Yes, so this will kind of tell us a little bit about what this thing can do. And there are actually a whole bunch of shortcuts that you may not realize are actually there on these phones. Let's see about Alt-Tab to switch between the recently open apps. That is actually really cool. We have like almost like a Windows-style app switcher that pops up at the top of the screen. That's pretty cool. And then, of course, your little Windows key and H will take you home. Windows key and Tab will pull up your multitasking page in a more traditional sense. We'll go back home again with Windows H. I just did Windows G, and that opened up Gmail, so that was an accident, but it is something that you can see actually seems to work. Now, this is a pretty interesting one too, right? So you have a tablet, it's a large screen. You might be wanting to do some split screen multitasking, and there are shortcut keys to quickly do this. You can do the Windows key control and then left or right, and it's going to actually throw your application over to the left. And what's actually kind of mind-boggling about this for me is that this is kind of like the OnePlus Open. We actually have access to our home screen, and I can come down here and select another application, and it's going to throw it up in split screen. Now, Google, what I need from you here is to take that exact interface, the thing that I just did with that keyboard, and give it to us on the phone with a 2-finger swipe down like we have on the OnePlus Open. You have it, you've built it, you've made it, it's functional, it's there, it's appended to a keyboard shortcut. Give it to us with a gesture, and I think everyone's going to be very, very happy because that would be really good. You can see a list of all the different applications and how you can launch them as well, so that Windows key with different keys does shortcut you to several different sort of default apps. But let's actually talk about input, typing with this keyboard. So whenever I go to type in something, what you'll see is this little toolbar will pop up at the bottom, and it has some predictive text, and it also has your emojis there, so you can click on your little list of emojis and input those. You also have this little settings option here, the little hamburger menu, I guess is what it will be called, and you can switch to a vertical toolbar, so that kind of gets this more out of the way. You can also jump into your settings and change more things specifically about your physical keyboard, like you can have it still show the on-screen keyboard. If we hit the Windows key and the left arrow, we will go back, so that's a cool one as well. You can see that even though I have my physical keyboard going, the on-screen keyboard still appears. So again, you can sort of change these settings. Now you can also do right-click stuff, so copy, cut, paste, all that stuff is there with your mouse. One other thing that I noticed that's pretty interesting is when you bring your cursor all the way down to the bottom, without clicking or doing anything, your taskbar will pop up, and this makes that a whole lot easier. I was worried that I was basically going to have to do like a little click and drag to get that to pop up, but you don't. You just have to bring your cursor down there and it's going to pop up. That works really well and it's really smart. Now, of course, once that's happened, you can click and then you can drag an application up, or I should be able to. There we go. I can drag an application up and go into split screening that way, or you can do the keyboard shortcut like I showed you. So obviously this thing does not have some desktop interface that runs on this main screen. You are still dealing with a phone interface and you're trying to use that phone interface with a mouse and keyboard, and that's not quite perfect. But I do think you might be relatively surprised as to how well it actually does work. There are some really useful keyboard shortcuts, like a shortcut to pull down your notification shade, a shortcut to trigger the assistant / Gemini. So all of that stuff works really well. The multitasking shortcuts, I think, are actually very, very clever. I can see a possible world where someone has a mouse, a keyboard, and a little stand, and they take their Pixel Fold and they set it in a stand on a table in front of them, and they use that as sort of a productivity setup using a full physical keyboard that could potentially allow them to type and get things done just a little bit faster. Even going home, the little swipe up from the bottom works better than you might think. And yes, you could switch to the 3-button navigation if you want to go that route, but I really didn't have too much of a problem as I was playing around with this going home when I needed to. Again, this has come a long ways. Little touches like that app switcher up top with Alt-Tab. Little touches like the fact that when you bring your cursor to the bottom, the taskbar automatically pops up. It tells me Google is actually paying attention to this to some degree, and that is very, very cool to see. Guys, let me know what you think about this stuff in the comments down below. Do you ever use your phone like that? What OEM is it? Should I take a look at what they're doing? Let me know. I'll see you in the next one, and until next time, stay nerdy, my friends.